Ladies and gentlemen, we will call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion, please, for the agenda for the September 15th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Thank you, Councillor Bevan, for making that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the August 18th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
I can make concerns, right?
Can I get a motion, please, that council decrease the ATCO franchise fee from 22.35% to 20%? Councillor Sorensen makes that motion, and we have Ms. Bittner, our General Manager of Corporate Services, to walk us through this. Go ahead.
Council, I believe this was discussed at the committee meeting last week, that we would reduce the franchise fee to 20%, which keeps it very much in line with the revenue from the previous year, plus a little bit from inflation.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Wilkinson.
Through the chair, when I counted these, like 41 of them are higher than we are already of these towns, so just about half already. So why are we going down, I guess, when the general just is higher than, or half of them are higher than what we are at 20?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilkinson, I believe that was a discussion we had at committee last week as to what level that we wanted to keep the revenue that we're getting. That's a charge that we put, well, it's a charge for that company to have their business within our town, and they on charge that to their customers on the bill. And then they give us that money from that bill. So I think their philosophy, I believe, was just to keep it a very similar revenue. And by doing that, we need to reduce that fee. We could keep it higher and get more revenue. I believe the philosophy when we were talking about the Fortis one a little bit earlier was that we were going to keep it very steady.
Can I still follow up?
Go ahead.
This has to be directed to the taxpayer, to the customer. They have to get that difference from them. They can't take it from their profit margin. Who established that, or why is that an established criteria for it?
Through the chair to council, I would have to look into that. I don't know the actual reasonings behind why that happens. I think it's always been done like that.
I know, it's unfortunate. It needs to change.
I don't know where that philosophy from the company comes from that.
I'm sure, yeah.
All right, Councillor Byer.
Through the chair to administration, I'm sure this has come up before, but as we've got this new information on the rider franchise fees to all the municipalities listed on here, it just shows that includes the $10,000 maximum allowable assessment on any individual metered account. To notice we're one of them, along with Drayton, Hinton, and Whitecourt. Is there a reason behind that, or and how many different accounts would we have that would apply to?
Go ahead, CEO Derrick.
Thank you. I think you'll find that the common thread there is that we all have bills in our community, and so that is specifically to protect large-scale users of natural gas, such as a major manufacturing operation. In our case, the Weyerhaeuser OSB mill.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Sorensen.
Through the chair to administration, I am obviously in support of this motion. I would like to see a policy going forward on our two franchise fees. I think some overriding policy on how we handle year-to-year fluctuations would be desirable on my part, at least. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Just through to administration and council, I agree that having a stable revenue stream there is important. Having the rate fluctuate year to year, I think, is somewhat problematic. And I think it's also, as I mentioned at committee, I think it's problematic that this is offsetting some of our operational costs. So we got to keep that in mind as we're formulating our budget next month, and think about how we can reduce our dependence on that. We also may want to think of setting a baseline for revenue, and anything over that goes into a specific reserve where we can pull out of if there are revenue fluctuations. those are some, I guess, some of the methods that we could look at to deal with this. I'd be interested to know what the average is between all those. I didn't take the time to add all this up and see what the average is. Because you see lots, like Fort Saskatchewan doesn't charge anything, and then you have others that are 30%. Many of them are at 30% charging, 35% Black Falls, for example. So I think it just depends what the philosophy is in that community. I just think this is a bit of a hidden tax on our consumers, where corporations are passing that on to the customers, which is rather unfortunate. But so with that, I'm certainly in favor of reducing it. The reason I voted in favor of an increase last time was to keep the revenue the same. So I'm gonna continue with that philosophy. So any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve budget adjustments for the water and sewer operational budgets, with 20,000 being added to the water budget and 60,000 being added to the sewer budget, all of which shall be funded from the operations reserve. Councillor Byro will make that motion. And we have Mitch Ham, who is our acting general manager of infrastructure and planning, with us. Congratulations on your new position, and take her away.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As discussed last week, we took too deep of a cut of it with our emergency budget into our water and sewer budgets, and we're just asking for that to be corrected through our operational reserve.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? We did talk about it in committee. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. That was easy.
We needed today.
Can I get a motion, please, that council set a reserve bid for each of the properties scheduled for tax sale on September 29th, 2020, as listed in administration's memorandum? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion, and we have Ms. Bittner back with us. Go ahead.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. A few weeks ago, we came and set the actual tax sale date of September 29th. And now, as we're getting closer to that, council must set reserve amounts on each of those properties that are still listed for sale. So in consultation with our assessor, we've come up with the market value. It has to be very close to market value, or a fair market value, I should say. So these are the properties that we still have listed for sale, and the value that we've come up with consultation with our assessor.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Through to Ms. Bittner. So if there is a sale, what is the process? So basically, that property is sold, who gets the revenue from that? Does it go to the property owner with us taking our portion, or do we get all the revenue?
We take the portion that's owed to us for the taxes. The rest of the money goes into a separate account, and it actually, there is a process to go through, but it ends up going back to the original owner. So the person who owed us those taxes in the first place.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Theodore.
I think I was just going to add to that it also depends whether or not there's a mortgage on the property as well, and that if those obligations are met prior to the money being returned to the owner, etc.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no information items, no sundry items. Council committee reports going to August the 18th. And today we will start with Councillor Bevan.
Just one on the 8th, the committee of the whole, and that is it.
All right. Councillor Curry.
Okay, I had the Edson Historical Society on the 27th, and I do want to give you guys some updates on them because it's just been a little while. Sorry, getting it right. They have already submitted their operational budget, their draft budget, to the town as requested. They were trying to be very respectful, so they did ask for about 1% increase. They definitely, with their budget, have seen a huge hit with revenue. Because their number one source of revenue is rentals. So they have done a really great job of looking for other ways to get people in there, even looking at with all the schools decreasing or ending all their shared use and rental spaces. They were even looking to see if there were some clubs that the space might look for. And I cannot give Sherry enough credit for, she has applied for every grant that possibly was available, and she's done a phenomenal job. So, and she's continuing to do that, hoping that in any way they can decrease that. So that has already been sent, and we'll see it. They are looking at, if you guys didn't know, the welcome wagon was dissolved, so they are looking at rebooting it. Because it's just an easy space, and they think they could do it and just help with it. So any creative ideas, Welcome Wagon is a like coined name, like it's what's the word I'm looking for? We can't use it. So if you have creative names. The operational plan, I'm going to send that to you guys all. Their operational plan is really great at showing. I don't think a lot of people understand what the Historical Society does and all the things they do. So I will share that with council because it really does go through step by step. They've done a really great job. They are really busy, and they are moving forward definitely with an escape room that you guys will see this fall. They have recognized that lots of people are wanting it. And because you do an escape room with such a small group of people, you can do it with your cohort. So they are doing it all planning and doing it in a sense where it's super easy for it to be sanitized and really low touch on anything. And I think they've actually done it where you have to separate from your teens. I'm not going to say anymore, but it will be COVID safe. COVID safe. So those are just kind of the big things that I did want to touch on. But yes, they've been started back up doing events. You guys have already seen, they were partnered with the town on the May. They've got the cemetery. I think that if you want to go on the cemetery tours, they are almost booked up. So definitely get on those. They're doing 2 different cemetery tours. So they have been very busy, but definitely their operational budget is in, and that will come up in our budget workshop for sure this coming October. Oh, and then I had, what else did I have? I had committee of the whole and the bike opening. I'm sorry, I forgot about this. So September 2nd, I was at the bike opening for the new bike park out at Lamar.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chouinard.
Okay, September 8th, I had the committee of the whole. On September 11th, we did our Yellowhead Highway Association meeting. We are gonna pursue the Alberta government on the 2 motions brought forward by Edson. Right now, we're struggling with setting up meetings because of COVID. So we are hoping, and City of Edmonton, we want to meet with them. So my suggestion, we'll meet with them on Halloween. And Edmonton right now is not denied it, but they're thinking, what a wonderful idea. We'll show up for Halloween, we can be masked up, we don't know who's who, but we're pursuing Edmonton because they expressed interest in joining ours, and then COVID hit. So we're going to re-pursue that. And suggestion is Halloween, perfect time for us to meet.
You can dress up as Mayor Nenshi.
Yes, but that's it for my report.
Councillor Wilkinson.
All right, with Evergreen, on August 24th, I went to Hinton to sign the agreement where Evergreen Foundation is taking over running the seniors bus in Hinton. And on the 27th, we had a Zoom meeting again for Evergreen regarding sale of land at Hansonville, little village on the side of the highway. On the 2nd of September, I went to the opening of the bike park, and that's really spectacular. We should be very proud of that. September 8th, cows. September 11th, I had FCSSA for the province, the weekly meeting. And today I went on a seminar for ASHA, Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association, about best practices for reviewing employee benefit packages. It was really very interesting. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
All right, August 19th, I had Youth Council wrap-up luncheon. It was a rough year for the Youth Council, but they did a phenomenal job and got a lot done. And looking forward to next year as well. Quite a few of them have applied to come back, so that's great. September 2nd, Edson Bike Park opening, and September 8th, committee of the whole meeting.
All right, thank you. Councillor Blair.
On August 19th, I also attended the Youth Council wrap-up luncheon, and as Councillor Sorensen mentioned, yeah, it was really great, and they had a fantastic year accomplishing with their accomplishments, but definitely rough with COVID and Zoom meetings, and yeah, it's definitely a bit interruptive to that. Also on August 19th, I had an Edson Library Board meeting, and we also passed the budget to the town as requested, and there's, as I mentioned previously, there's other cutbacks that the library is facing through the county libraries, but because the county gives the library board the amount in the middle of the year, there's challenges with budgeting for what amount you don't know you're going to receive in June, right, or May of the next year, right? So there's definitely challenges with that. And then on September 2nd, I also attended the ground opening of the Edson Bike Park, which was amazing, and definitely impressed with the skill set of the people already here. And September 8th, the committee of the whole meeting.
All right, thank you. On August 19th, with Councillor Sorensen and Byer, attended the Youth Council wrap-up and presented each one of them with certificates. The Zoom meeting format did not work well for Youth Council, so we have made the decision that we are going to resume in-person meetings, but everybody will be wearing masks in September. I really feel bad for the youth this council because they didn't get the full experience, and it was really a challenging year, but every one of those youth volunteered and made their hours despite what was going on. So, and a number of them are moving on to post-secondary. So I'm pretty proud to see that happening. And as Councillor Sorensen alluded to, we had a number of them that have reapplied. And just a reminder that the deadline, if you know of any youth, the deadline to apply is this Friday at 4 p.m. So hopefully we'll have another successful third Youth Council coming forward. On August 20th, I traveled to Sylvan Lake for the Municipal Leaders Caucus. They had several leaders caucuses throughout the province in smaller groups to adhere to COVID guidelines. A lot of talk about policing and some of the challenges municipalities are facing. It was interesting that what kind of positive working relationship we have with our detachment commander here in the RCMP detachment in our community. Other communities can't get any information, there's no communication whatsoever. So that was certainly a positive that I saw from our community standpoint. Lots of talk about the local government fiscal framework, which will be replacing MSI. Took 15 to 20 years of lobbying to have sustainable, predictable funding, which municipalities are very thankful for, but it's going to be about 25% less than historical MSI amounts. So how that's going to look will be interesting, especially with what's going on with COVID. And there's a number of stipulations on how the funding formula is going to work. So there's still lobbying going on to hopefully convince the provincial government to change some of their perspectives on that. The capital for LGFF will be legislated, but operating will not be. So that's a concern to much smaller communities that rely on that operating funding. It's not necessarily as significant for us. I don't know if you would ever cut out or Ms. Bittner, how much operating funding do we receive each year and what's that used for? So I'm going to put you. Yeah.
It's around 70,000.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what it's used for? What it's used for?
We usually apply it towards the library or the museum.
Okay. Lots of concern, obviously, with the assessment model review. The information that we've received is the provincial cabinet is looking at accumulated surpluses, reserves, unspent MSI money as a part of their reasoning for what they're doing, which is not an appropriate way of looking at this program. So pleased to say that Emily Long has arranged a meeting with our new municipal affairs minister, and she's going to be meeting with regional mayors coming up here later this month. So we'll continue that effort. And then I had the chance to chat with the mayor of Sylvan Lake about their rec facility, because that's where we met. They spent $38 million on expansion and renovation and borrowed $13 million for theirs. So when I told him that we were looking at borrowing $9 million for a $70 million project, he looked at me like, what are you guys waiting for? So, but there was an interesting concept. Their curling rink has infrastructure for an NHL sized rink underneath it. So if curling goes sideways, that they can convert that into a actual ice rink surface. So something to keep in mind for the steering committee. September 1st, attended a Rotary Zoom meeting for an update on TMX. We are going to see a lot more crews coming into Edson as construction ramps up. They haven't been working along the entire pipeline route until I think this week because of bird migration. And they are working 6-in-1 shifts. So they are working 6 days and they're off for a day. So on that off day, they're usually here in the community because they're not traveling home. So they're shopping, they're going out to the bike park, that sort of thing. So yeah, so bulk of workers will be here until the end of the first quarter of 2021. And many have moved their families and spouses here as well. Many locals are working on the project. He did not have the exact numbers though. Then I met with MLA Long later that day to talk about things such as the outstanding $2 million. September 2nd, the bike park opening. Hats off to Mike Stoner Walker and his wife Ann and all the volunteers. That's leaving a legacy in our community that I think we should all be proud of, and appreciate all the efforts on that. And then on the 8th, had committee of the whole, and that is my report. We have no financial matters, questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting. Anything? Nothing, Kayla. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, to move into a closed camera session for a personnel matter and a third-party financial business matter? Councillor Chenard, all those in favor? Motion carried. Right. Somebody would like to make a motion? Councillor Beyer?
I'd like to make a motion to set the CAO salary as discussed in camera.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. And can I get a motion for adjournment, please? Councillor Chenard will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried.